And once Abdurrahman ibn Auf, now Abdurrahman ibn Auf, as you all know, he was a businessman. He started poor. The famous hadith, you all know. He started with nothing, right? He came with only the clothes on his back. And that famous Sahabi of the Ansar said, look, I have so many things, I'll split everything in half. Everything in half. And Abdurrahman ibn Auf said, may Allah bless you, keep your wealth, tell me where is the suq. And he had some butter with him. So he came and he started buying and selling, and slowly he became one of the richest people of all of Medina. One of the richest people of all of Medina, and he came with nothing on his back. And so once, many years after the death of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Abdurrahman ibn Auf is now living that life, and he is brought a dish with meat and with bread. And of course, to this day, meat and bread is the staple food item. This is now this is what you pay good bucks for to get a nice steak here. This is what you do. This is to this day, meat and bread. Of course, rice, they never ate it. The Prophet never ate rice. Rice was not a commodity that was available in Arabia at the time. Rice is a water crop. You're not going to get rice in Arabia. So he would only eat bread. So he was brought meat and bread. And as soon as he saw this platter, he began to cry. He was asked, oh, Abdurrahman ibn Auf, why are you crying? He said, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, till the day that he died, he never ate wheat bread. Forget this fine, refined bread. He never ate wheat bread to his fill. Forget with the meat. He never ate wheat bread to his fill, and not even his family. Not one day they could eat to their full. And I worry, he says, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has allowed us to remain for such a long time that we're seeing all of these blessings come, and the Prophet has gone on to something that is better. In other words, I'm worried that I'm getting everything back now, and I want something back then. And I'm worried that Allah is allowing me to live much longer, and everybody else has gone by. And as for Aisha, many times it is narrated that she would begin to cry when good food was given to her. Now remember, Aisha, she lived until 40 years after the death of the Prophet, and the ummah the money began to come in, as they say. And so she would get gifts, and she would get a stipend from the government, and and alhamdulillah, she would be generous with the poor. But sometimes people would gift her large items, good food. And it is narrated multiple times that when she saw all of this food, she would begin to cry. And she would say the same thing, that the Prophet never ate rusty bread or hard bread to his fill even one day in his life. He never got to eat all of this full. Of course he ate bread, but to his full even one day of his life. And we all know the story of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Abu Bakr and Umar, the famous story reported in Tirmidhi, that Umar ibn Khattab did not have anything to eat. I just like to point out here that the Sahaba lived very tough times in the early part of Medina. Before the conquest began, before the money began pouring in, Medina was a very difficult place to live in. And when you didn't have dates, there's only one season dates are there. Once they run out for the rest of the 6 months, you are living a very difficult life in the middle of the desert. And there's many stories of this nature. And so once Umar ibn Khattab is walking in the streets, and he sees the Prophet ﷺ sitting, and this is at noon. And at noon, nobody walks in the streets in the summertime. It's too hot. So he says to the Prophet ﷺ, Ya Rasulullah, what are you doing outside? And the Prophet ﷺ knows that Umar is outside for one reason, and that is he doesn't have food at home. So he says the same reason as you. Same reason as you. I mean, I'm just sitting outside, there's nothing to eat at home. And as they're sitting there, Abu Bakr as well is walking. Because you cannot sit at home and you're hungry, you just want to walk around, just go outside. And the three of them are sitting there just talking when one of the Sahaba, Abu Haytham, is rushing back to home from work. So he finishes his chores, he's rushing home. So he says, Ya Rasulullah, what are you three doing at this time of the day? And so Umar says, well, we didn't have anything to eat, so we're just sitting here basically talking. So Abu Haytham says, no, this is not possible. This is not possible. That the three best people now you're sitting here. So he knows that he has an old goat at home. So he tells them, come to my house and I'll give you food. I will prepare food for you. Come to my house. So he rushes home. He only has one goat that is past the age of giving milk. It's an old goat. So he tells his wife, by Allah, we need to sacrifice this goat. We need to get rid of the goat. And you cook the food, I will knead the dough, we're going to make some bread, so we will give him meat and bread. And so the Prophet Abu Bakr and Umar, they came and they ate meat and bread, which is of course the luxurious food item of that time and to this day. And then what was the response of the Prophet when he finished all of this? After not having anything at home, he reminded Abu Bakr and Umar. He reminded them that they left their houses hungry. And Allah gave them this meal. Ya Abu Bakr and Umar, ثُمَّ لَتُسْأَلُنَّ يَوْمَئِذٍ عَنِ النَّعِيمِ. Allah is going to ask you on that day about this food. What did you do with it? And did you thank me enough for it? SubhanAllah, I mean, wallahi, one of us, we three meals a day, we don't even think about Allah's blessings, right? And the Prophet is so conscious that Allah is going to ask you about this na'im. ثُمَّ لَتُسْأَلُ. You're going to be asked about this blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you.